The news nobody expected this summer has just dropped, and Arsenal fans need to talk about it. Welcome to Wenger Arsenal Daily, your trusted home for everything Arsenal. If you have not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, please go and do that right now. We bring you honest, detailed, and passionate coverage of every Arsenal story, every transfer, and every big moment at this club. Thousands of Gooners already trust us as their daily Arsenal source, and we want you in this family too. Now let us get straight into a story that nobody really saw coming, but that everyone is now talking about. Because the news just broke, and it is a big one. Introduction. There are some stories in football that feel completely impossible until the moment they suddenly become very real. The idea of Arsenal selling Martin Odegaard, their captain, their leader, the man who's been at the heart of everything Mikel Arteta has built at this club, felt like one of those impossible stories just a few months ago. But here we are. BBC Sport journalist Sammy Mockbell, one of the most trusted and reliable football reporters in England, has now said out loud what many people had quietly been whispering behind closed doors for weeks. Arsenal are happy to let Martin Odegaard leave the club this summer if the right offer comes in. Football.London has also backed up that report, listing Odegaard as one of 7 first-team players facing an uncertain future at the Emirates this summer. So what exactly is going on? Why is this happening? What does it mean for Arsenal? And most importantly, how should Gooners feel about all of this? Let's break it all down together. Chapter 1. The story that has been building all season. This news did not come completely out of nowhere. To fully understand why we are here, you need to look back at what has been a very difficult personal season for Martin Odegaard. The Norwegian captain has struggled badly with injuries over the last 18 months. Since picking up a serious ankle injury back in September 2024, which required surgery, Odegaard has never quite managed to get back to the level that made him one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. He missed long stretches of the campaign, and even when he was fit, he did not always produce the kind of performances that Arsenal fans had grown so used to seeing from him. The numbers tell a very honest story. This past season, across all competitions, Odegaard scored just 1 goal in 36 appearances. 1 goal. For a player who, at his peak, was contributing double figures in goals and assists every single season. That is a dramatic drop-off from the standards he had previously set for himself. His assist numbers were slightly better at 8 across all competitions, and there were moments when he looked back to his brilliant best, such as during wins over Brighton and Aston Villa in December, where he was dictating play from the right half space just as Gooners had been used to seeing. But those moments were too few and too far between. And the painful reality is that Arsenal still went on to win the Premier League title, still reached a Champions League final, and still performed brilliantly for long stretches of the season, even when Odegaard was not in the team. That is perhaps the most important thing to understand about why this situation has developed. Odegaard used to be completely irreplaceable at Arsenal. Now, with Eberechi signed for big money last summer and performing brilliantly, and with Mikel Merino and Martin Zubimendi also in the squad, Arsenal have more depth and flexibility in those attacking and midfield positions than they have ever had before. The question of whether Odegaard is still as essential to this team as he once was has become a genuinely difficult one to answer. Chapter 2. What Sammy Mockbell and Football.London actually said. Let us be very clear about exactly what has been reported here, because it is important to separate the fact from the speculation that tends to build around stories like this. Sammy Mockbell, speaking on a podcast, said that there have been whispers over the summer that Arsenal might be interested in letting Martin Odegaard go for the right price. Mockbell is not a journalist who deals in rumor or guesswork. He is a senior BBC Sport journalist with strong connections inside Arsenal Football Club. When he says he is hearing whispers, it means something. Football.London, which has long been one of the most reliable sources for Arsenal-specific news, backed up those claims by listing Odegaard as one of 7 first-team players who face uncertain futures at the club this summer. That is a very significant list to be on for someone who, until recently, many people would have described as one of the most important players at the club. On top of that, reports from Spanish and Italian outlets have suggested that Arsenal will not listen to any offers below around £82 million for their captain. So this is not a case of Arsenal trying to sell Odegaard cheaply. The club knows exactly what they have, and if someone wants to take their captain away from North London this summer, they're going to have to pay a very serious amount of money to do it. Bayern Munich and Paris Saint-Germain have both been linked with serious interest in Odegaard. There are also reports that Odegaard himself has had conversations with his agent about exploring options in the Premier League, with Manchester United mentioned as a club that could be interested in keeping him in England. Here's a question that every Arsenal fan should think about honestly. If Bayern Munich or PSG came in with an offer close to 80 or 90 million pounds for a player who scored just one goal last season and has been dealing with recurring injury problems, would that actually be the right business for Arsenal to do? Chapter 3. Why Arsenal might do this. Let us think about this from a purely practical and business angle, because there are actually some very clear reasons why Arsenal might genuinely be considering this. The first reason is financial. Arsenal spent a massive amount of money during the summer transfer window last year. Reports suggest the club had the highest net spend in world football during the last transfer campaign, bringing in players like Victor Gyökeres, Ebereki, Martin Zubimendi, and others for very large fees. That level of spending has to be balanced against income. And Premier League profit and sustainability rules mean that clubs who overspend need to generate money through player sales to keep their finances in order. Selling Odegaard for a large fee would give Arsenal a very significant financial boost that could fund further investment in the squad without breaking any financial rules. The second reason is the squad picture. Arsenal are genuinely well stocked in the positions where Odegaard operates. Eze has been outstanding since arriving at the club and offers something different in terms of directness and pace. Marino provides a different kind of creative threat. Zubimendi brings control and intelligence in the middle of the pitch. Ethan Nwaneri has been considered a ready-made, long-term replacement for Odegaard for several years now. Arsenal head of football Andrea Berta is also reportedly very close to finalizing the signing of Morgan Rogers from Aston Villa, who can also play in the same areas as Odegaard. In short, if Odegaard did leave, Arsenal would not be left scrambling to fill the gap in the way they might have been 2 or 3 years ago. The third reason is the contract situation. Odegaard has 2 years remaining on his current deal, with no reports of extension talks underway. If Arsenal cannot agree a new contract with their captain, and if he then has just 1 year left on his deal next summer, the club could find themselves in a position where they have to sell him for much less or even risk losing him for nothing. Moving him now, while there is still enough time left on his contract to command a high fee, might actually be the smartest financial decision if a renewal is not possible. The fourth reason, and this is perhaps the most sensitive one, is the broader story of the Arsenal project moving forward. Arsenal under Arteta have been on a constantly evolving journey. Players who were central to earlier stages of that journey have sometimes needed to move on to allow the club to keep growing and improving. That is not a criticism of Odegaard, who has been a fantastic servant to this club. It is simply a reality of football at the highest level. Chapter 4. Odegaard's legacy at Arsenal. Before we get into what comes next, it is absolutely right to stop and properly acknowledge just how much Martin Odegaard has meant to this football club, because regardless of how this story ends, his contribution to Arsenal's journey has been extraordinary. Odegaard arrived at Arsenal on loan from Real Madrid in January 2021, at a time when the club was in a very difficult place. He made an immediate impact, showing a level of calm, quality, and creativity that Arsenal had been badly missing. The loan was made permanent in the summer of 2021, and in July 2022, he was named club captain, a remarkable achievement for a player who had only been at the club for 18 months. What followed was arguably the most exciting period in Arsenal's recent history. Odegaard was the conductor at the heart of Arteta's pressing machine. He set the tempo, he created chances, he scored important goals, and most of all, he led by example both on and off the pitch. Under his captaincy, Arsenal came agonizingly close to the Premier League title twice before finally lifting it this season. He has also been part of the squad that reached a Champions League final for the first time in the club's history. His overall numbers at the club tell a brilliant story. Across 234 competitive appearances for Arsenal, he has contributed 42 goals and 45 assists. Those are outstanding numbers for an attacking midfielder, and they only begin to tell the story of how important he was to the way Arsenal played and performed. The Champions League semi-final second leg against Atletico Madrid is a perfect example of what Odegaard has brought to this club. He came on as a substitute and immediately changed the game, providing the kind of creative spark that only he can. Moments like that are why Arsenal fans have loved him so much. Chapter 5. What the legends and pundits are saying. This story has also prompted some very interesting reactions from Arsenal legends and well-known football pundits, and it is worth sharing some of those voices with the community. Arsenal legend Paul Merson, speaking on a podcast, said something that he himself described as madness. He said he believed Arsenal would probably think about selling Odegaard, but added that if they did put him on the market, there would be teams queuing around the block to sign him. Merson also made a really interesting point about the kind of striker you need to get the best out of an Odegaard-type player, suggesting that his style demands pace in front of him. Steve Nicol of ESPN said he believed Odegaard might be leaving Arsenal. His argument was that with ease already signed and performing so well, Odegaard faces the prospect of significantly reduced playing time next season, and that a player of his quality would not want to sit on the bench week after week. Frank Leboeuf went even further, agreeing with Nicol and suggesting that while Odegaard has always been an elegant and technically gifted player, the arrival of ease has made Arsenal's attack more vertical and more dangerous, and that Odegaard is simply no longer as influential as he once was. On the other side of the argument, former Arsenal legend Tony Adams had actually been pushing for Declan Rice to be named as the new Arsenal captain even before any of this transfer talk began. Adams argued that Rice better reflects what Arteta wants from his team, and that making Rice captain might actually free Odegaard up to play with more creativity and less responsibility. Adams said Rice is a winner, an Arsenal leader in the dressing room, and the kind of player who can take the club to the next level. Those are fascinating perspectives from people who have real knowledge of and connection to this football club. Chapter 6. Who would replace Odegaard? If Arsenal did sell Odegaard this summer, the question of who replaces him is an obvious and important one to address. And based on everything happening at the club this summer, the answer is actually already taking shape. Eberechi has already shown he can operate in a similar role to Odegaard and is arguably even more of a goal threat. Morgan Rogers, if the deal gets done from Aston Villa, brings versatility and power in those forward and wide attacking positions. Mikel Merino has shown he can contribute in forward areas. And Ethan Nwaneri, who went on loan to Marseille this past season to develop, is widely regarded as one of the most talented young players in English football, with a style that many observers believe is perfectly suited to the kind of role Odegaard has occupied. Reports also suggest that Declan Rice is being lined up to take over the captaincy if Odegaard does leave. Rice, who has been exceptional since arriving at Arsenal and was arguably the player of the season in the title-winning campaign, already wore the armband for West Ham and for England. He has the respect of every player in that dressing room, and the idea of him leading Arsenal into the defense of their Premier League title as captain is genuinely an exciting one. Chapter 7. What Arteta and the club are saying. It is important to be balanced and fair here, because there are also people very close to the club who are pushing back against this narrative. Team Talk reported this week that sources at the Emirates have indicated Arteta continues to have full faith in his captain and has no desire whatsoever to see him depart this summer. The same report noted that Odegaard himself is determined to prove he remains a key figure at the club and intends to commit his future by signing a new contract. Football.London have also reported that while Odegaard's future is uncertain, there's another outcome that remains very much possible, which is that he signs a new deal, remains at the club, and comes back next season as hungry and motivated as ever to prove his critics wrong. His form before picking up his recent run of injury problems showed that when fit and sharp, he is still one of the top 5 or 6 attacking midfielders in the Premier League. The reality is that this story is genuinely fluid and uncertain right now. Arsenal are open to selling if the right offer comes in, but that is not the same as saying Odegaard is definitely leaving. A lot will depend on whether any club is willing to meet Arsenal's valuation, whether Odegaard himself decides he wants a new challenge, and whether the two parties can agree on a new contract. Chapter 8. A message to the Arsenal community. To everyone here in the Wenger Arsenal Daily community, this is one of those stories that is genuinely difficult to process, and we want to acknowledge that honestly. Odegaard has been brilliant for this club. He has led us through some of the most exciting times in recent Arsenal history. The idea of him leaving feels strange and sad, even when you can see the logic behind it from a business and squad perspective. But what this story also tells us is just how far Arsenal have come under Arteta. We are now a club that can genuinely consider selling a player as talented as Odegaard, because we have enough quality across the squad to cope without him. That is an extraordinary statement about the progress this club has made. 3 years ago, selling Odegaard would have been unthinkable. Now, it is a conversation that is at least worth having. Whatever happens, Martin Odegaard deserves enormous credit for what he has given to this club. And if he does leave, he leaves with the gratitude and respect of every single Arsenal fan. Conclusion. Let's bring it all together one final time. BBC sport journalists Sammy Mockbell and Football.London have both reported that Arsenal are willing to let club captain Martin Odegaard leave this summer if the right offer arrives, with the club setting a minimum valuation of around £82 million. Bayern Munich and PSG have been linked with interest, while Manchester United could offer him a Premier League alternative. This development comes after a difficult season for Odegaard, in which he scored just 1 goal in 36 appearances due to recurring injury problems, while the arrival of Ebereki Eze and a well-stocked attacking midfield group has made him less irreplaceable than he once was. Sources close to the club also suggest Odegaard himself remains determined to stay and sign a new contract, meaning this situation is far from resolved. Here is the question we want you to answer honestly in the comments below. Should Arsenal sell Odegaard this summer if the right offer comes in? Or should they keep him and back him to rediscover his best form next season? We want to hear every Gooner's view on this one. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share this blog with every Arsenal fan you know. And if you have not already done so, please subscribe to the Wenger Arsenal Daily YouTube channel. We are your most trusted daily source for everything Arsenal, covering every transfer story, every match, and every big moment as this incredible club keeps moving forward. This is a story that is going to run all summer, and we will be right here covering every single update as it happens. Up the Arsenal, always.